Caleb Williams is going to be interesting because he was the first NIL star quarterback in college, making $4 or $5 million a year. Now, year or two later, there's a lot of people making $1 million. Defensive linemen are making $1 million. High school kids are getting a couple hundred, $300,000 or $400,000. Sometimes not as seniors, but as juniors in high school. So that thing's changed. But he was the first NISL superstar. And he's confident, and he straddles the line between cocky and confident. And that stuff can get you in real trouble real fast. There was a little, you saw a little bit of it the other day when they asked Caleb Williams about pressure, which is real and it exists in life and sports and politics. But Caleb says, I don't believe in it. Okay, so maybe he's one of 2 or 3 athletes all time that doesn't feel pressure. Maybe, but it does exist. So there are 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round. And if you look at history, 1 will be a star, maybe 1 or 2 will be solid starters, and 3 will be misses, maybe 4. So let's go to the last decade where quarterback play has been much better at the high school and college level. The coaching of quarterback play, the cottage industry, the quarterback camps, better than ever. And despite that, in the last decade, we've had 32 first-round quarterbacks, 32, 7 stars, less than a quarter, and over half, 17, I would call misses, and about 6 solid starters. Some years, 3 drafted, all misses, ugly misses, over half. So Caleb Williams, to me, is the only quarterback in this draft, because I said this yesterday, being a quarterback in the NFL is very situational unless maybe you're John Elway or Andrew Luck. Outside of that, who do you get as coach? Who's the owner? What's the roster? What's the O-line like? What's the division? But I do think Caleb Williams is the only quarterback in this draft that, regardless of situation, will be productive. Now, he may not win a lot. He may never get the right coach. I mean, Justin Herbert, super productive, yet to have the right coach until we think Jim Harbaugh. So I think the floor for Caleb Williams, the floor is like Kyler Murray, where he's obviously talented. He throws a beautiful ball, will win, probably shows up in a playoff or 2, gets paid, but doesn't win enough, right? Like may have some Mahomes tendencies. He just doesn't win enough. That's Herbert so far. That's Trevor Lawrence so far. And I think he's a better prospect than both. But the rest of the quarterbacks, I'll just say it right now. Let's start with Drake May. I think there's a real chance it doesn't work. Bad footwork, not refined, defensive coach, bad roster. So he's not going to get off to a good start regardless if he succeeds. I think there's a real possibility he could really, really struggle. If I had to guess one guy who doesn't make it, this would probably be my best guess. Michael Penix, like him, but he's a pocket quarterback, and there's not a lot of those in the league. He's had major injuries. He's a lefty. Atlanta doesn't have a history of winning. In fact, I saw this morning, they've sold out for the first time in 20 years. They've sold out their season tickets. He also has to get through the Kirk Cousins roadblock for a couple years. How does that play psychologically with him, with his confidence? There's Bo Nix, who I like, but size, kind of small, arm, kind of average. Now we got Sean Payton, O-line pretty darn good, nice weapons, Mims, Franklin, Cortland Sutton, but he's a small quarterback, doesn't push the ball down the field a lot. And what if after 3 or 4 years, they're just like, he's kind of average? It's possible. J.J. McCarthy, I didn't really buy into him, has a lot of confidence, but J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback from Michigan, what if he is just a product of Michigan's system? And Jim Harbaugh, I mean, they won a national championship. In one game, he didn't throw a pass in the second half. Again, they tell me he's a certain height, but he always looks a tad small and a tad slight to me. I didn't see all these NFL GMs. Even Minnesota only gave up a couple of mid to late round picks to get him. What if he's just more of a product of Michigan? We've seen that before. Guy who's great in college with a great coach and great personnel. And then there's Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to hit, but he is slight. Washington has new everything. Owner, GM, coach, coordinator. What if they can't protect him with the offensive line? That's certainly possible. So my gut is Caleb Williams is the one that will be productive, and you will go, wow, a lot, and doesn't win. bad owners, really bad owners, kind of a political organization, defensive head coach on the hot seat in the first month. The division, it's a lot of shootouts. Minnesota's offense, Green Bay's offense, Detroit offense. You got to win by scoring. He may not win much. He may be on his second coach by next year. And again, it's not the greatest weather. So that's kind of how I look at all of it. It's very situational. My guess is that Caleb Williams is talented enough to at least be productive and jaw-dropping.
Okay. So do you guys hear what he's saying? He's pretty much saying that Caleb is going to be a great player, an unbelievable player, maybe even, a top player in the league eventually, but yet they're just still not going to win. He's pretty much betting on the Chicago Bears just being what the Chicago Bears have been for the last 10, 15, 20 years, however far back you want to go. He's not a believer in the franchise as a whole, as the organization as a whole, to be able to set Caleb up for success. It's going to be interesting because I think this team is legit. I'm not sold on Eberflus, and I know a lot of Chicago Bears fans are really high on him. That's something that I learned making Chicago Bears videos. But the fans are very, very, very high on him. I'm personally not. I love, and I will just have to keep saying this again and again, when you have a quarterback like a Caleb Williams, I am a huge, huge, huge proponent of getting an offensive head coach, because that relationship is just so important and integral to success. Because otherwise, your star quarterback, your franchise quarterback, is going to be constantly at the mercy of whoever is the coordinator. And that coordinator, if they have any type of success with your quarterback, they're going to leave. They're going to be getting other opportunities, better opportunities. And it's just going to be too inconsistent. To me, that's like kind of the biggest issue that the Chicago Bears face more than anything. And the only other way to overcome that is if you have an insanely mature, and dare I even say established quarterback already, or your defensive head coach is such an elite defensive head coach that he's got that defense just rolling year after year after year. So it really minimizes or reduces the burden that your quarterback needs to have, a la Tom Brady. Or also someone like, and this is, it's always hard to compare people to the GOATs, but you have someone like a Bill Belichick, who was obviously such a savant, so elite, so knowledgeable, that he was able to have these meetings with Tom Brady and pretty much be like, I'm going to teach you defense, and this is going to make you a better quarterback. I'm going to show you every single week how I would stop you, right? And Tom Brady has spoken at length as to how beneficial that was for him. Not all great defensive coaches have that ability to do that. It's just different. So that to me can potentially be, for me, that's the biggest question mark with the Chicago Bears. I'm not so adamant like Colin is right here to be like, oh, he's going to win some game, or he's going to play great, but he's not going to be able to win games. I really see the Chicago Bears being legit this season. I really do. Again, what does that look like in the grand scheme of things? I don't know. I'm kind of sick of just constantly saying, oh, they're going to be in the playoffs, they're going to be in the playoffs, and going up against the people that are saying they're not going to be in the playoffs, they're not going to be in the playoffs. Because it's just, we have no idea how this season's going to unfold, right? And it's just like, and because I keep saying that they're going to make the playoffs, because I do believe that, it's like, if they don't make the playoffs, then does that mean that Caleb Williams is not that good, or that the Chicago Bears are not that good as a whole? And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because they are in a division with two established teams that have gone through their growing pains, have gone through their transitional period, have a lot of consistency and carry over from previous seasons. Not something that the Chicago Bears have. They're installing a new offense, a new coordinator, a new rookie quarterback. Like, there's a lot of moving pieces here. So I think they have a difficult task. And if they don't achieve or win a ton of games like Colin is suggesting, it's not necessarily inherently because they're just this flawed, fundamentally, defensively driven, so therefore their offense isn't good. NFL team. I don't think that we don't have to like jump to that conclusion. I think it's a very real possibility that they could be really darn good, win some games, but miss the playoffs. And that doesn't mean, all right, Eberflus gone, this guy gone, let's do this, let's sell this, let's do that. Like, I don't know if it necessarily has to be that, especially because if you think Caleb is going to be legit, well, then it's like, he should be on this trajectory. So I wouldn't be so quick just to kind of blast Chicago as just being a franchise that someone like Caleb will only be able to put up good numbers and kind of wow us, but not win games. Because I don't know if I believe that. Maybe if they didn't go out and get some of the pieces that they had and they were just still relying on what, a similar team to what they had even just last year or the year before, I could buy into that a little bit more. But I would say that the Chicago Bears really proved this past season, or this past off season, that they are ready to make moves, right? Like, they didn't do everything where we're like, we're going to keep Justin Fields, and they went out and got other weapons. They went out and got a coordinator. Like, they were proactive. They were proactive and aggressive. That's really all I ask from ownership and the GM and management of any team. Just be proactive and aggressive. That's my favorite thing that the front office can do. Be proactive, be aggressive, because what it signals to me is you're trying. You're trying to make moves. It drives me crazy when they don't make moves. Look at what the Dallas Cowboys, they're not really doing much. They're not being proactive. They're not aggressive. They're not aggressive during the season, and when they maybe during like the trades or even the off season, they don't make some of those moves, and it's like, I don't feel good about that. If I'm a fan, I'm like, you're not doing anything, right? The Eagles, they had a disastrous end of the last season, and it was like, okay, what did they do? They got rid of their coordinators. They went out and drafted defense to boost up their defense. They went out and got a Saquon Barkley. Again, even if you want to say that those moves were wrong, they're still moves. They're actually trying to get better. And I think in the past, you could make the argument that the Chicago Bears weren't aggressive or proactive in trying to get better. Here, they are trying to get better. They are proactive. So I have no desire. I feel no obligation to just use what they did in like the 2000s or whatever as a frame of reference as to who they will be in 2024. It's irrelevant to me. It's absolutely irrelevant. So I don't know if I wholeheartedly agree with Colin, but it is something, I guess, worth contemplating, because it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. But I really do think that Caleb can have a lot of success and early on. And I think he's a type of player that I think he's more Josh Allen than anything, in the sense that even under perfect circumstances, he will consistently send messages to the fans, to the franchise, to the ownership, that I'm legit. Get me a team, get me a coach, get me whatever, and we can win some games. I will constantly put us in a position to be right there. If you just support me, we can win some games. Chicago's massive. I just don't see how they're just not going to try to become a dominant player in the NFL. They're just not going to be happy being a team that's just like kind of relevant. They get into the playoffs, win maybe a playoff game, then lose. Like, I don't think that's what Chicago is trying to build. They want to build their own run, their own dynasty. They think that Caleb Williams can legitimately be the next Patrick Mahomes, even better than Patrick Mahomes. And they want to be like, all right, we see what KC did. Well, we're going to do that. That's what they want to do. And listen, obviously, whether it ends up actually happening, who the heck knows? But at least they're putting themselves on a path to get better and be better. That's all you can ask. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you agree with Colin that the Chicago Bears will just not be good enough to support Caleb, but Caleb will still put up good numbers, but just not really be able to win games? Or do you think Caleb Williams will be able to kind of transcend that, and that the Bears are actually doing enough to support the team as a whole and win games? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.